This is Life Rewired, the brain injury podcast, for survivors, by survivors. And now your host, Rob and Ashley.
Hi, everybody. I'm back. Welcome to the Life Rewired podcast. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Rob.
And I'm Dawn.
We are thrilled you guys are here. And today we have author Dawn Corbelli returning. She had originally talked to us about her book, which, what is the title again, Dawn?
A Miracle a Day, One Day at a Time. Hope After Traumatic Brain Injury.
On a previous episode, but we wanted to have her back because one of the things she had mentioned on that episode was the educational program she and her daughter do as a result of their experience with a traumatic brain injury. So, Dawn, do you want to share with us how this idea to do this educational program came about?
Well, after everything we went through, we decided we wanted to share education. And I started calling schools to see if they would allow us to come speak to the students. And they started getting back to me and scheduling us. And so we started teaching about almost 4 years ago.
And what topics do you cover in regards to traumatic brain injury during the educational sessions?
Well, we talk about the ways you can get a brain injury, the common problems, the definition, of course, and our stories. Besides our story of how we got our brain injury, and our recovery, we also share stories of things that have happened since our brain injury, because honestly, we find humor in a lot of the unfiltered conversations that are had because of our brain injuries.
And how long do the classes last that you teach?
Some of them are 50 minutes long and others are an hour and a half. When we teach the 50-minute classes, we have a slideshow that we go by. And with everything on there, we talk about the different types of brain injuries, mild, moderate, and severe. We also give examples of things that happen to you when you have those types of brain injuries. And we also, with the hour and a half classes, we not only do the slideshow, we also do a video. It's a 25-minute video of Veronica actually in the hospital recovering from the vegetative state onto consciousness. And we do that because Veronica is a very healthy young woman now, and she can do everything we can do. Like, she has full physical capabilities. Unless you talk to her for a while, you really don't notice that she has a brain injury. And we want the students to see where she came from the time she was in the ICU and all the things that she had to go through, like learning how to re-walk. That sort of thing is on the video.
And Veronica's your daughter, for those who didn't see your previous video, correct?
Yes. She's 32.
Just wanted to clarify. And how often a week do you teach the classes?
We teach once a semester for the schools that we do. And there's 6 classes or 7 per school. And we do right now 3 schools, and we're trying to get more schools. But that's what we do right now.
We have a clip of Dawn and Veronica teaching class, so let's take a look at that real quick.
A grown up, and then like in the next instant, my parents will tell me I did something wrong, and I'll be like, no, you didn't. And it's just how I react.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, we're going to talk about the definition of a TBI, the severity of brain injury, statistics, and common problems. So what is a traumatic brain injury?
A traumatic brain injury is an acquired injury to the brain.
Wait 1 second. An acquired brain injury can be traumatic or non-traumatic. I got my little list here. If I can find it. You can get a brain injury in many ways. And so you can get a traumatic brain injury from a blow to the head, like an accident, a car accident, somebody hitting you in the head, falling. Whenever your head, the injury comes from outside your body. But also it can come from illness or disease, mosquito bites. Sometimes mosquitoes are infected and they can actually cause meningitis and give you a brain injury. If you have a mouth infection, like a tooth infection, and that can also cause a brain injury. Sinus infection can go to your brain. Alcohol and drug use, oxygen deprivation, and a tick that has Lyme disease can also cause a brain injury.
Resulting in total or partial functional disability or physiological, psychological, or social impairment, or both, adversely affects a person's educational performance.
The way it can affect educational performance is when you have a brain injury, you're often super tired and
I went back, I missed a whole semester, my second semester sophomore year, and I went back junior year, and the first semester of junior year, I only went back for half days, and then I would go home and I would like sleep the rest of the day. I'd wake up for dinner and go back to sleep.
Yeah. When she wasn't in physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy, which when she was in the hospital, she did all three of those in the morning for 3 hours and then in the afternoon for 3 hours. And we actually had a friend come to the hospital and Veronica kept falling asleep and he said, "Why are you so tired? All you do is lay around all day." And my husband and I got kind of irritated with that because Veronica worked really hard to get better. So, and she was.
And your brain heals when you sleep. So,
Yep.
What is a brain injury? An injury to the brain caused by a blow to the head, penetration of the skull caused by an accident. The injury may disrupt functioning in a single area of the brain, of focal damage, or impact multiple areas of the brain functioning, diffuse damage. Adverse effects could be short-term or long-term. And that's me. And mom. Mine will, I'll have forever. I will, my neuropsychologist said when you hit 25, you will be as good as you get. That is
Wow, that's great. Are there any frequently asked questions that the students have, or any questions that you have found interesting that you would like to share?
There are, but before I do that, I want to tell you something I always forget to tell
Okay.
the students. When we teach, I try and do only one class in a day. If they're 50-minute classes, I can do two. And I'm terrified for next week. We're supposed to teach 5 classes, 2 the first day,
Oh, wow.
and then that's Monday, and then 1 Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But I'm thinking I'm going to have to cancel one class because of the energy it takes. We're very energetic when we're teaching, and we seem fine energy wise, and it takes so much energy from my brain that I become so physically exhausted as well as mentally exhausted. So we taught a class on Thursday, and I came home and slept 2.5 hours. And then after that, I laid around the rest of the day. And then Saturday, I also had to rest. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do all those classes. And the reason we had them put together so closely is because there was a bunch of snow days. We were supposed to teach separately, and have a few days in between each session. But there was a bunch of snow days, and now they're trying to get us in a small period of time.
So the cognitive fatigue is something you and Veronica still experience since the car accident. So it takes a lot of spoons, referring to the spoon theory video, to get through these classes. So you kind of have to go home and replenish your spoons.
Yes, it's unbelievable how spent we are. Veronica said actually on Friday, Mom, I feel nauseous. And that's usually my line. Usually when I'm that spent, I feel sick. But I was just so exhausted, I had to go to sleep.
Mm.
Oh, you asked me another question. Oh, no. I forgot your question.
Any frequently That's all right. You can go back and watch our memory issues video. That's for the audience, not for Dawn. Sorry, you got to have a sense of humor, like Dawn said, with brain injuries.
Sure do.
Are there any interesting or frequently asked questions you guys get during your classes?
Um, if we don't mention it, people often ask Veronica if she can drive again, which she can't for two reasons. One is she gets her gas and brake mixed up. There's a disconnect somewhere between her mind and her feet. She's tried 4 times, and even with professionals every time, and 2 times were with hospitals, professionals that teach brain injured people how to drive again. She was gone like 5 minutes, and they brought her back and said she shouldn't be driving. So we waited a few years in between each time, about 3 years in between each time, but I don't think we're going to do it again because the last time we found out it's not only her feet that she can't control, it is her temper and her cognitive problems.
Mm.
She angers very, very easily. We call it going from white to red. And when people do things that she doesn't like, she flips them off, and she wouldn't be paying attention to the road if she was doing that. Even when I'm driving, she does things a little bit dangerously. Sometimes she reaches over and honks my horn, which is horrible, but she does it sometimes. So she's not going to drive.
I feel like I have emotional issues too since the concussion, and I'm extra sensitive. My husband actually nicknamed me Snapping Turtle when I get into those
Okay.
moods.
Mhm.
So I can kind of relate, not to the extent of Veronica, because again, I feel like you said the mild, moderate, severe traumatic brain injury really is a spectrum, and mine's definitely more mild. But going from 0 to 100 is definitely something I can relate to.
Oh yeah.
Well, what I know is now from the education I've even gotten from writing my book and from speaking to the students is whether you have a mild, moderate, or severe brain injury, a lot of the symptoms that you have when you have a severe brain injury, you can also have when you have a mild brain injury. So the difference is how long you've been unconscious. It's not an absolute. Sometimes people with severe brain injuries haven't been unconscious for weeks at a time or even days. I have a friend that was only unconscious for like a half hour, but she has a severe brain injury. So
Mm.
there's nothing mild about mild.
I do
Is
have a
there
question.
anything else you want to share about the classes that I didn't think of to ask, Dawn? I know we'll be showing, the audience some excerpts from your classes, but anything you want to share about your classes?
We teach compassion. That's a huge thing we teach um,
Mm.
because and there's always students that don't fit in. And sometimes the reason is because of brain injuries. And we do things that are unfiltered and embarrassing. And sometimes our
Mm.
friends don't understand why we're behaving like we're behaving. So we lose them, and those students end up sitting alone. And I always teach the kids in the class, it is not going to hurt you to say, "Hi, how are you today?" It's going to take nothing from you to be kind to others. And another big thing we teach, I know a lot of brain injured people do smoke marijuana and take gummies, but I've found out, actually, I see a psychiatrist, so um, I have found out that when you have bipolar disorder or schizophrenia in your genes, even if you don't have the disorder, and you smoke marijuana, it can For bipolar disorder, it can bring out, what's that word?
Is it like manic?
Why don't you describe it and we'll figure it out?
I want to say the word psychotic. It can bring out a psychotic episode. And then with the
Oh,
schizophrenia,
psychosis?
yes, if you don't have schizophrenia, but it's somebody in your family does, it is more likely to come out if you are smoking marijuana. And the gummies can be dangerous too. Medicines and things like the gummies and the marijuana do opposite for Veronica than they do for a lot of other people. A lot of brain injured people have the opposite effect of what is supposed to happen. She gets hyper and happy and can't stop moving and becomes even more impulsive, which is really dangerous. So even with medication,
Yeah.
she often has the opposite effect. She was given medicine to help her lose weight, and it attached her to the refrigerator. So a lot of things happen differently for brain injured people than people that don't have brain injuries.
Now, are the classes you teach, are they free of charge, or do you guys charge a fee in case there are teachers or educators, watching that might be interested?
We have I wrote up a business plan, and I've presented it to different schools, but they said, nope, we don't have money for that, and nothing's going to stop us from teaching. So we just said, okay, we're still going at it. And it was so nice Thursday when we were teaching. We had a different teacher than we usually have. There's a few that we're used to seeing every year, and this was a different one. And he said he was so excited to hear our story because teachers talk about it. And students, when we walk in the school, they say, oh, you were here last year. That was great. And one time we were in a restaurant, and this young man, he was like 15 years old, and he was busboy, and he came up to Veronica while we were eating, and he said, you taught at our school last year, didn't you? And he said, what a great presentation. So we're making a difference.